Do you wrestle with dreams? Do you contend with shadows? Do you move in a kind of sleep? Move in a kind of sleep. Time has slipped away. Time has slipped away. Your life is stolen. You tarried with trifles, victim of your folly.
Welcome to Gom Jabber with the Mua'Dweebs. We are three dweebs who can't get our act together, and this is week something of our podcast. We are rereading Dune, a few chapters at a time, sometimes 3, sometimes 1, sometimes half if you're Josh. And we do a thorough but flippant rundown of what happened with all of our various perspectives. My name is Lily. I don't remember most of the book, but I am a fervent fan of the brilliant cinematic classic, David Lynch's Dune. And I'm loving reading this book. Who are my other dweebs?
I'm Josh Stevens, and I don't know who I am anymore. I've moved. I'm in a new location, 2 doors down from where I was before. But I had to make that move with no space bags, and that was very sad for me. I guess the only thing you need to know is that I'm the gurney of our little...
I was going to say, you're our Gurney Hallett.
Yeah. And
I
didn't do any singing in the last 2 weeks because I was a little bit too preoccupied with things happening in the world. So it's been an interesting couple weeks.
Sure has. How about hearing from our resident Frank Herbert and Duke Leto apologist?
Wait, no. Josh is the Duke apologist. I only apologize.
I did it one time.
I am Alec Boyle. I'm the Baron Harkonnen of this particular audio entertainment spectacle. And I, in fact, remember the first book pretty well, and then the next 2 books to 3 books to 4 books, not that well, but well enough to bring in irritating details from them at inappropriate times.
Totally accurate.
And I'm on deck tonight because it's my job apparently to explain why the dinner party is a great scene.
Yes. You made some bold claims at the end of our last episode.
I know. I think I'm going to win you over this week, though, even if I fail in my mission of explaining why the dinner party is a great scene, because the dinner party contains some of the dukiest Duke moments and the Pauliest Paul moments in the entire book. And that I know I can prove.
I know Lily will have something to say about the dukiest of dukes, so because I think that's what she thinks about him.
Yeah,
that's very true.
So
we don't, because this book eschews chapters. We are reading from "Greatness is a transitory experience," opening quote, through the next 3 chapters, concluding with, I don't know.
Whoa! I thought we said we're only doing 2 today.
No, you said that.
You said that. You told me that.
I said we might only get through the dinner party. I didn't say...
You said there was a natural stopping point, that really we should wait until next time to start. Now this is all coming back to you. Otherwise, you just sabotaged me intentionally.
I didn't think you would listen to me.
Oh, I totally listened to you.
Anyway, and I still
want
wanted...
We'll get through what we get through.
Yeah, I still want...
Alec and I read through this dirge, which, Josh, I'm surprised you didn't want to read and maybe sing for us. with the infamous death scene of the old Dookie.
Well, maybe I'll have to wait till next time.
And can we all make a vow? This is something I would like to ask of the entire Dweebiverse, not just us. All of us say spoiler all the time. Like, we're just talking about the book. Y'all have seen the movie or you haven't. You're reading the book or you aren't. If it spoils, it spoils. I'm trying to not say spoiler anymore.
Okay. I'll attempt your challenge. I will not lose sleep if I fail it. I'm willing to be proven an animal in the ways of spoilers. Oh, shit!
You were the one who wanted to do the most spoiling in the beginning, so
I know.
I feel like this should be natural for you, Boyle.
So I'll read that first quote, and then we can launch into how dookie that Duke is. Greatness is a transitory experience. It is never consistent. It depends in part upon the myth-making imagination of humankind. The person who experiences greatness must have a feeling for the myth he is in. He must reflect what is projected upon him, and he must have a strong sense of the sardonic. This is what uncouples him from belief in his own pretensions. The sardonic is all that permits him to move within himself. Without this quality, even occasional greatness will destroy a man. From Collected Sayings of the Mua'Dweeb by the Princess Irulan. And just right out of the gate, I call bullshit. He never said that. No human being would utter a sentence like that. It's insane.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, so even just the very last concept here, you really think that even your occasional greatness or something, even occasional greatness will destroy a man? Really?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't feel it. I don't know. What about Lily?
I don't get it. I think I glazed over this. I was like, too many words.
It is too many words. But also it's
too
bullshit.
many big words.
Yeah.
I wanted to I feel like sardonic is one of those words that I think I know the meaning of, and I glaze over it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's sardonic. And then do I really? Do I actually know what that word means?
Does Frank Herbert not? I always imagined sardonic as being sort of humor adjacent. Like you have a sardonic sense of humor where you sort of I think maybe it just means stepped back.
Oh, I thought it
meant
sort
remove?
of fatalistically failed. I think because it sounds sarcastic, and I think that it's sort of fatalist, and so it's that sort of
it's
self-deprecating.
It's
cynical. That's the word.
And it's funny because I actually looked it up when I read it the first time 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I was like, because the exact same thing. I was like, I think I know what this means, but in this context, it doesn't. I'm like, do I know what this means? So it was the exact same thing as you, Lily. And since then, I forgot exactly what the definition was, but it says grimly mocking or cynical.
Yes.
So we all seem to have a grasp on what it is, but it doesn't. It's not one of those words that just sort of sticks with you.
It's pretty nebulous. I'm okay with just calling bullshit on sardonic the word. Figure out what you mean, word.
Yeah.
So then, what is this quote saying? If you're going to be, it's the ultimate cop out. Then is this supposedly Mua'Dweeb copping out of oh. I couldn't really be great because greatness ruins you. I kind of always knew that, and that's actually what makes me great.
That's why I never got too great, yeah.
Yeah.
But made me the greatest by being not too great.
Exactly.
Do you think greatness ruined Michael Jordan?
Yeah, well, or did Michael... I mean... It's a chicken-egg question. Did greatness make Michael Jordan an asshole, or did Michael Jordan being an asshole make him great?
Probably both. Why not both?
Yeah, can be both. There was a really interesting quote on another podcast, a sports podcast I listened to, where they were talking about how, the real problem with that is that because Michael Jordan was great and one of history's great assholes, now there's all these middling assholes running around being I have to be an asshole to be great! But they're not.
Didn't Michael Jordan just donate $100 million?
Yeah, but he's still an asshole.
Okay. Well,
right?
He could be a bigger...
That's hardly a defense.
Yeah. I don't think he's a bad guy. I
don't
think he is, at root, an unpleasant person.
Yeah, I don't know him. But I would not say that greatness ruined him.
Sure, for sure. He did not die. He was not destroyed by lacking sardonicity.
You think he's cynical? You think he's a cynical man?
No, I think that's part of what made him great. In fact, was that he really bought into his own. He had no cynicism about his greatness.
Yeah, I actually think greatness in the sense that maybe they're proposing requires narcissism, not a sardonic sense of your own myth.
Unless you're, the mighty Paul. Maybe it's just trying to trick other people into not buying into their own hype. Anyway, I don't think we need to spend any more time on an opening quote that we all hate.
You can cut all of this. It's garbage.
No,
it's great.
Yeah, it's at least copper.
Fine. Do what you want with it.
Some meth head would definitely steal this out of an abandoned telephone transmitter. So the first thing...
Give us a 30-second rundown.
30-second rundown of this chapter. This will be less. It'll be like 15, unless I keep rambling about how long it's
this novella of a chapter, yeah.
This chapter consists of a fancy dinner party given at the Atreides Palace, where various shady personalities attend, and there's lots of or sub-spoken tension, and then maybe some almost violence. The Duke gets called away because they find Josh's missing carryall.
Yeah, they did.
And Paul insists that he knows how to handle a room full of murderous grown adults, no matter how much Gurney and his mom try to babysit him.
That sounds about right.
And then it peters out at the end, like the last big meeting scene, right? Like it just dissolves under its own weight.
At the end of the slide deck, so...
I liked that it started with the big bull head and the oil painting of the old Duke who was gored to death.
Speaking of Michael Jordan, my marginalia for this, y'all aren't going to be able to see it, is my version, which I'm realizing, I think all three of us are originally from Chicago, right? Is my version ends up being the Chicago Bulls head, because I was like, oh, the Bulls back, and then I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's just the Chicago Bulls mascot.
There's a funny passage, I think, in the next chapter where Yui is, or someone is reminiscing about the fight where the old Duke died.
Yeah.
I guess that's Thufir. And basically he says in that chapter, sort of under his breath, like, man, the old Duke was a shithead. So, maybe that's also part of it, is that, Leto doesn't have to be that good. He's just better than the old Duke sufficiently to inspire loyalty. But we'll get to that when we get to it. There's a lot to also unpack in the Jessica dresses down Thufir chapter that I think will be a lot of fun. Apparently, nobility in the 41st millennia are they're like the Inuits of poison, right? They have 80 different words for poisons and how they're administered.
That was pretty awesome.
I just like the names of some of these. I'm going to name Chamurki. Chaumas. I want a whole dictionary
of poisons. I was reading it, and I was thinking, why don't we poison people anymore? And I was like, oh, wait, the Russians really do. They do a lot of that. Oh, that's true,
yeah.
I think we're fine.
Yeah, they do. You don't, yeah.
It's alive and well.
This is a question that may or may not have been answered, and I don't know if either of you. How did they give that guy the polonium? Did anybody ever figure that out? Was it in his food? Was it... Okay. I mean, the Russians also often... Their language must have 18 different words for throwing someone out a window in different ways, right?
Defenestration's the best one, though.
I don't know. I'm sure there's some Russian word for, we threw him out a window on a cold, moonless night because he refused to hand over his bank accounts. And that's just one word.
It's probably something like Chamurki.
Chamurki.
So, let's start with some Duke apologizing.
Okay. Oh, man. This is going to be an uphill fucking battle, because I have some thoughts on the Duke.
Let's start with the custom that he abolishes with the water basin.
Okay, perfect example of the Duke's behavior from the last chapter. So wait, before I rant, and before Josh explains his defense, I want to know Lily's thoughts on this specific interaction.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to find. So he is talking with the water trader.
Well, no, he's talking. It's 161 and 162.
It's like the second
Okay.
page, yeah.
Where they're talking about
just
how the
enters.
Harkonnens used to make people wash their hands and then dry their
Drop
hands in a
it on the
towel. Right.
And then they get the squeezings.
Yeah. And the Duke's like, no, fuck that. All right, so Josh, launch into your defense then. Let's hear the good side explanation of what the Duke has done.
So, this custom of intentionally just slopping a whole bunch of water on the ground and sopping it up with towels to wash your hands and then making beggars come is shitty.
Yeah, 100%. Barbaric and grotesque. No problem there.
So stopping it seems not shitty.
Sure.
It's pretty simple. I think
Okay.
that's about it. He was grossed out by it. He thought it was something
Okay.
to get rid of.
Okay,
Something
so
like
I
that.
have two thoughts about this. The first thought is actually something that comes up much later in the chapter. But later in the fucking chapter, the Duke just dumps a goblet of water onto the floor for no reason.
Yeah,
No,
that's what I
that's
remember
it's
being
separate.
puzzled
There is
by.
a reason. There is a reason.
Okay, well, you can explain the reason when we get to the maneuvering part of the chapter. The second thought I have on this is, yes, abolishing the custom is good, but the way that he does it, where he's just instantly like, nope, we don't do that anymore, I'll shoot you if you try to do that, is very dooky. Right? It's very, I am not in any way going to consider the actual complex ramifications of this. I'm just going to order it done immediately.
This is the most rational course of action. I am enacting it now.
This wasn't about
without
being
care or
rational.
concern.
It says here, how typical of a Harkonnen fief, the Duke thought, every degradation of the spirit that can be conceived. He took a deep breath and felt the rage tighten in his stomach. He had a reaction to the
Right.
Harkonnens being
Which
shitheads.
was, right, which you were, again, this is one of the things, you're correct. It is an ethical good what he has done by ending this practice. It is a political dookie by not pausing to examine all the ramifications of this and the best way to go about achieving it.
Yeah, he's a little
He
reactionary,
says-
but he's already like in a mood, remember?
He's always, he's
The
not in a
Atreides
mood.
and their moods.
When you're
Yeah.
always pissy,
He
it's
came
not a
from
mood
one, but he
anymore.
came from quite the mood. And then this just
Yeah, the
was
Atreides
icing
have
on the
100
cake.
words for the Duke's moods. Is it post-nap grumpy? Or is it like, are we, that's like at 1 and Lost Carry-All is
Yeah.
10. Which is probably Josh's
I mean,
10.
he's being trolled pretty hard by the Harkonnens. I mean,
Okay.
this is
Yeah, and then there's this whole slightly awkward section where he's talking about he realized she had done this to taunt him subtly, a reproof against his recent pose of coldness. She was well aware that he liked her best in these shades, that he saw her as a rustling of warm colors. Here's the best part about that, though. He's convinced, oh, Jessica knows how cold I've been. She's very upset. And then, like, the next time Jessica talks, she's like, oh, yeah, he was in a mood. It's like, she did not in any way notice this as special coldness.
that's interesting.
I loved that section. I was like, oh, yeah, Jessica does not care that he's being pissy.
The more I read this, I just love this our current reading of it, which is like, Jessica's just part of this deeper, like, deep Bene Gesserit state conspiracy. She gives no fucks. Like, she could
But
be
she's a
his wife if
pawn.
she wanted to.
She's a pawn in this conspiracy. She's not like the mastermind.
I
She's
think it is
often
important-
as surprised by what's happening. She was shocked that the Bene Gesserit had like planted all of these. She's like, oh, they've even done it here. I've heard of these things. Like, she's like vaguely aware of it, but also not nearly as aware of it as she should be. Definitely not a mastermind. She is certainly.
I'm not saying
a
she's
cog
the
in the
mastermind,
machine.
but
she's a cog in the
I
machine.
don't think she's less coggy than the other cogs.
Yeah, she's not a pawn. She's maybe a knight.
Like a bishop.
Yeah, a bishop.
On a on a very need to know basis.
No, but he's like, Jessica, sensing his remoteness, wondered at it as she had done frequently the past week. He acts like a man struggling with himself. is it because I moved so swiftly setting up this dinner party? Like, these are not like, oh, does he think I'm a traitor? It's, oh, what's he pissy about now?
Right, but later she realizes he's a desperate man.
Here's what I do want to get back to, and why I was confused about the water custom. Because when the Duke walks up to Jessica talking to whoever the other guy is, with his bland, round face, which I love.
That's the water trader who...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so he tells the water trader's pissed.
Yeah.
The custom has been changed, Leto said.
Well, go ahead.
Anyway, Jessica frowns, and in italics, a frown does not become her, but it'll increase rumors of friction between us. Just this, like, smile, honey, like a frown does not become you. Duke.
Also, I don't know that I think that the water trader is actually as pissed as he's pretending to be, right? I think he's probing the Duke when he challenges the challenging of the custom.
What evidence do you have to back that up, that he's just probing?
Mainly how quickly he switches track, right? Like, and then later even Jessica's like, hey, when somebody is being underhanded, they'll always do sort of the same thing twice, right? And which she's talking about the Harkonnen banker at the time, but I think it's meant to give us context for the whole chapter, right? Which
they're baiting. She's talking about how they essentially are baiting him, right? They'll do one thing and then they'll try to either not really walk it back, but they'll try to then lighten the mood with something else, but that is still pushing their agenda or pushing the mood in a certain way. But it's constantly baiting the Duke one way and then the other way.
Right, so here, he says, the water shipper asked in an angry voice, does the Duke imply criticism or a custom? Then Leto's it. Then he gets mad because Jessica's not a smiling object.
Mm-hmm.
Then the water seller just immediately says, with the Duke's permission, I'd like to inquire further about customs, right? And he's switched. Leto heard the sudden oily tone in the man's voice, right? So the anger was to see what the Duke would do if they seemed to put up fierce resistance. And then the oily is like, oh, all right, fine. You're gonna fuck with the way the Harkonnens did thing. Let's see what you're about, son.
Right.
Yeah, and then he calls him out on the conservatory. He's like, you're all about water conservation. How about that sweet, sweet, moist conservatory you got back there?
What do you think about
And then Jessica saves his ass. The Duke is like, hubba-da, how dare you? And she's like, we have other plans. We're going to give it to the people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, isn't that what Marjorie does in Game of Thrones? Doesn't she do something similar?
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. When she's betrothed to Joffrey at some point.
Yes. Oh, the leftovers or something, right?
Maybe from the wedding feast, from the purple wedding.
Yeah. We don't remember. Someone will remember. Marjorie does something similar. That's a typical, like, I'm going to save my rageful a-hole of a partner by making this magnanimous gesture.
Is that a worlds bounce off of each other kind of thing?
Yeah.
Oh, good. New segment.
World billiards with the Mua'Dweebs.
I mean, we probably already beat this topic to death, but the custom that he abolishes, and the woman that says, I think it's a very generous gesture giving the water to thee, and then someone shushes her. So, what about that hot take?
Well, again, there's no disputing that it's generous, right? And it's not even that I think it was politically ill-advised. It's just that it was not considered in any way, right? It's just a very Atreides downfall kind of move.
Well, no. This woman is saying that she thought that the old custom was generous in that giving the water to the beggars.
Oh, you think?
Was generous. Yeah.
Oh, that is not how I read that, but...
She says, I think it's a very generous gesture giving water to the, essentially, poor.
What page? Give me the page.
This is 164, the second paragraph after the, is it a ducal order, my lord?
Oh, I see. So she doesn't know what Leto said. Right, she doesn't know that they're giving away water anyway. She's defending the old way of giving away water. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Let's get to this dinner party, Alec. I want to hear the rundown. We're burning oil here.
That's true. And it may be that it's too complicated of a... Oh, well, hang on. So where they haven't even sat down yet, but they talk about how the water seller could blow up the water processing facilities, or would threaten to blow up the water processing facilities if he felt he wasn't, getting what he was entitled to. And the Duke thinks how it must redouble his effort at infiltrating this Boots organization. And we must start on standby water facilities at once. No man is going to hold a club over my head.
It's in italics, so clearly it's true.
And then the other thing I did kind of want to talk about was the part where Liet, right? Where Kynes, where she says, "Oh yeah, we're gonna hold the water until all of Arrakis can bear plants," and then Liet asks her if she brought the Kwisatz Haderach, which also, or he asked her if she brought the shortening of the way, and I think that's an interesting passage because I think that is maybe the paragraph or moment where the mysticism that Herbert is trying to imbue the story with comes closest to real fruition. Like, that's sort of a very Coney sort of way to talk about a savior, right? Is in a sort of like a spiritual wormhole, a way to get from one place on the progress line to another without having to cross the distance in between.
Interesting. Shortening of the way. And that it's tied to a sort of terraforming of Arrakis.
Yes. I like that Thufir tried to forbid the dinner party. Before they even sit down, right? The guests are walking past Leto and Jessica, and he's remembering Thufir, and Thufir was like, "I forbid a dinner party." And it's, again, just getting back into the utter inadequacy of the Atreides intelligence machine. Right? Like, all these things are happening all around this entity, and the thing that Thufir is losing his shit over is a dinner party. Which, I guess...
I read this, I must have read that a month ago, because I don't remember that at all.
Oh, it's the top of 167. Right? Jessica's talking about how she set up the dinner party very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then Leto...
Oh, gosh. Yes, can we talk about this, like, protracted mother and father of the people shtick that Jessica's really into?
Yes,
Here,
please.
Father and mother surrogates to them all. And she brings it up again in the later chapter, and...
so this is her indoctrination, it sounds like.
Yeah, it doesn't...
Reverend Mother. She's already got this whole mother complex thing, right?
And it's interesting because she, at this point, is aware of the fact also that, like, within the permanent population, there is more inculcation of receptivity to these roles she's applying for herself and Leto.
So this dinner party is to further that agenda, correct? That's why she's inclined to do this?
Yeah, I think she's also trying to just get a hold on who the, like, major non-Atreides personalities are on the planet and what their status is vis-a-vis the Atreides occupation.
Yeah, it's like New People in Town 101. You throw a, like, Lux dinner party and you invite you make yourself look important by inviting important people.
Right, all the small business owners and their favorite hookers.
But you know how the Atreides feel about letting people into their shield. Like, this is...
Slow penetration. Is that what we're talking about?
This is actually where there's a huge breakdown in the Atreides intelligence community.
Okay.
I feel like. So... you have Thufir, who they all trust implicitly to protect them, who thinks this is a horrible idea. They're letting all of these Harkonnen agents into their midst to feel them out, but Jessica does this on a whim without any of the necessary precautions, potentially puts her son in danger, her husband in danger. Like, what was she thinking? Throwing this dinner party I
utterly disagree.
Out.
Yeah, I utterly, because I don't
disagree.
What is the danger?
Well,
that's not how they're going to do it. The dinner
there's
party
only
is like...
danger if they fail to see it, which they point out 100 times the places where they do see it, right? But the fact that they are aware that these people are Harkonnen agents, that these people, they're trying to lure Paul. There's potentially going to be violence at this very dinner.
Right, but I don't actually think... I guess I don't know. It's not entirely clear. I was kind of under the impression nobody had any real weapons at this dinner party. And so the danger was poison. And it seems like in Dune World, if you die from poison, everybody kind of assumes it's your fault. Like,
No.
literally, everybody scans every dish for poison, so if you didn't scan, you kind of got what you deserved?
No, there's at least twice where there's a standoff. People
Yeah,
are pushing
you're right.
themselves away
Yeah,
from the
no.
table to potentially grab their weapons. They wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't an actual physical threat of violence.
Or were they just going to brawl?
That's just how they. Yeah, I'm with Alec on this. I think Jessica was like, oh, these men. They always think that the dinner
No,
parties are it's going to be
and
this
in fact,
overt
hang on.
aggression.
Who brings a
Hang on.
Chris knife to a scuffle?
No, hang on. In fact, though, there were no weapons, right? The banker threatening duels, right, was just, again, it was a probe. It was seeing how they would react. The actual plan, which I think was a half-hearted plan to kill anybody, was to get Paul to go back to his room
with the girl.
with old girl, right, and have her kill him there. But no one
Or
was
really just probe him for secrets. They're just
Right.
so obsessed with this quick kill.
No one was actually threatening violence at this dinner party. They were pretending to threaten violence to see how other people would react.
It's the game
Sure.
of houses.
It was a lot of-
I
it
know
was a
I'm
lot of
too deep in the Wheel of
posturing.
Time. This is game of houses.
It was a lot of posturing, but I don't know. It just seems you're bringing these people into your midst within a few, feet of your whole family, and you know that they are out to get you, and yet you didn't prepare any of the necessary people to kind of,
Like
figure
what?
out what's going on first. Well,
Like what?
like Thufir. Thufir's like, I forbid it. He
Right,
forbids it for a
Thufir-
reason. He sees...
No,
He knows
he's an
it's
idiot.
happening.
He's an idiot. The dinner party is a known threat that you brought in the front door. Well, he is very aggressively busy missing the real threat, right, of the smuggled guns.
Sure. Okay.
No, not just sure.
You're saying there's no real threat here, and I think that there was a threat. And if they're really smart and cautious, you just kind of coordinate a little bit. You plan it, even just a little.
No, but so there Herbert has us, right? Because Herbert is, in fact, it goes into very lengthy detail in the next chapter about how the reason that wouldn't happen is because right now, Thufir and Jessica aren't talking to each other. Right? And that,
And
in fact,
also-
was the real Harkonnen plan all along, was to get the various, legs that prop up bitchy old Duke fighting against each other.
So tell me why they're fighting.
And Jessica knew
'Cause of the-
if she went through the fully Thufir plan, he was gonna forbid it, gonna shut it down. And she's like, "Oh, I already sent the invitations. Sorry, boys. I guess we're having the dinner party." She knew that the only way to get this dinner party to happen was to do it the way that she needed to do it and not get death by committee, death by Thufir.
And she definitely made good. She generated good intelligence assets out of it.
Oh, she definitely did. It actually, that was the most interesting part of the whole thing, right?
All right, let's get to that. Let's
Okay.
move forward in this.
Yeah. So where should we go to, Lily? Should we go to the tongues of wild rabbits?
Yeah, we should.
The most.
It's all I remember from that part of it is I hate when it's such a banal, uninteresting move to ask a hostess oh, I love this. Can I have your recipe? Oh, I love this. I need your recipe. No, you can't have my recipe. No.
Yeah. I wonder if it's
Be more
also
interesting.
Yeah. And I feel like it was probably
Why are you
even
so stingy
more.
with your recipes, Lily? I give
Yeah.
my recipes freely.
Why are you guarding those Benny Gesserit's secret rabbit tongue recipes?
Yeah, you
It's
best be giving up
I
them
just
recipes.
looked it up on Pinterest.
Oh.
Just Google
I just-
kohlrabi gratin and figure it out. It's not. This is false flattery. I have way more interesting things to share about myself and my life than my Pinterest recipes.
I just realized another really interesting forwards to backwards connection between this and the next chapter is that everybody at this dinner party is like, oh shit, this Atreides wine is so strong. And then in the next chapter, it turns out that, like, right, Gurney Halleck, this accomplished interstellar warrior, goes out, has one spice beer, and gets tanked.
You mean Duncan?
Yeah, Duncan, sorry. But,
Yeah.
like, so they're obviously all lying, right? None of them are even vaguely tipsy.
Oh, that was
Also a
that was
great classic
clearly
dinner party
them just
move.
trying to get away from the table.
Right,
After
it's just
a
really
pretty awkward
funny.
encounter.
It's just funny to try and claim, like, oh yeah, this Atreides wine, it's real strong.
That's why you don't mix spice and alcohol. Like, those two things compound on each other.
Make up the rhyme for us, Josh. Spice before liquor. Out of dice. See, this is why you've got to do it. I am not qualified for this.
There's your cold open, Alec.
I'm not bailing you out of this one.
Okay. Yeah, but so do we want to talk?
So they sit down at the table. The
Mhm.
Duke is super dooky awkward. My toast is one of those maxims so dear to our hearts.
Oh.
Business makes progress. Fortune passes everywhere. So he's like, a rising tide lifts all boats. That's why you should be glad we're here at Arrakis. Water trader, sexual escorts, smuggler guy, person somehow I don't know is Leah Kynes.
Yeah. It's so good still. It's so good. Right? Half the room is literally like waiting on Liet's signal for everything they do. I have to say, after Shed Out, Liet might be my favorite character so far, mainly because of the fact that when the Duke dumps out the glass of water, he just like pulls out a basin and pours the water into the basin, and then like
Figured it was
winks
just
at
like a
Jessica.
like a little canteen.
Yeah, and I just love that he winks at Jessica while he does it. He's just like, "Yep,
I just picture him staring her down as he pours it without looking.
right, yeah," and smiling.
Oh, so
He's like,
so smart.
absolutely, I am not wasting this cup of water. I don't care what
So
the rest of you idiots
100%.
do.
Never would I ever go to an Atreides dinner party. It is the most awkward thing ever. The Duke is really aggressive and intentionally putting people ill at ease by saying awkward
Right.
quotes and like staring at them and dumping water out after he's made this
Literally
other gesture about
every
water.
person was doing that. You got the guy talking about the birds that are drinking blood, and then people are bringing up cannibalism. You've got,
But Paul brought up
literally-
the cannibalism. That's another great Paul moment. He's like, how can I emo this? Do they eat each other?
So no, literally every person took an awkward situation and tried to make it more awkward. They're all testing each other's mettle, which is fun. That's good. They're
Man.
pushing boundaries.
And the moment when Paul stabs a bite of food off of his neighbor's plate.
That's my favorite. Alec, that's my favorite moment in the whole chapter. That is such an amazing power move. He's just like trying to be like, oh, my dad's gone. I gotta be the man here now. It's like, look, I know quotes. I know things. And then he just picks food off his neighbor's plate.
I would have decked him at that exact. Like, I would have started an interstellar war by decking him.
Wait, who are you decking?
Paul!
Whose
He
plate did he eat
says
off of?
this
The
this is my quote of Paul.
water-
Most educated people know that the worst potential competition for any young organism can come from its own kind. He deliberately forked a bite of food from his companion's plate and ate it. They are eating from the same bowl. They have the same basic equipment. Like, shut up, kid. Give me my rabbit tongue.
Oh,
Get
man.
out of here.
Did you see?
Grown-ups are talking.
Did you see Knives Out?
No.
Yes.
Oh, this is very much making me think of Paul as the teenage boy who they are talking about how he's always jerking off to Nazi porn.
What?
He's constantly lecturing on people on things that he has memorized the text of but does not understand the context for.
Yes.
I don't know. I think Paul knew what he was doing.
Jerking off to Nazi porn.
Well, you only say that because at one point Paul is like, I knew what I was doing. Why did they stop me?
I was handling this.
Yeah, I had that, guys.
I toast to the boy who must be treated as a man.
I mean, I guess, right, they do say at one point, Herbie does support him, right? With his deeper truth sense, Paul caught the underlying motive. Had to use every ounce of his training to mask his excitement. There is enough water, but Kynes doesn't wish it to be known. I guarantee you he did not mask his excitement. Yeah. Yeah, he's sitting at the table like, I'm so subtle!
No. So, here, this is written from one perspective, but the book written from the other character's perspective is that boy is really trying to mask his excitement. I picked up on it.
Okay, yes, exactly.
Like, everyone thinks they're smarter than every other person at the table, and it's just going round and round, and it's pretty fun stuff.
It's another, Kynes just has this amazing plot cloaking device, right? Where other people failed, because, it would have been pretty obvious at that point that he was, covering for the fact that there was enough water, and he knew it. And yet everybody's just like, yep, fine, no water. Carry about your business.
Back to Malthus, it's fine.
So why do you think everyone is so ready to accept that answer? I mean, he's telling them what they already want to hear, right?
Right, that is the good analysis question. And it does go into a bunch of other weird stuff that I don't know if it's ever really explained about, and maybe it is, but I don't remember the explanation, about, why nobody ever goes into the South, right? Why don't they do satellite observations of the South? Where there clearly is, in fact, a large Fremen population that you could probably observe from space pretty comfortably. And maybe that is answered, and I just don't remember.
Right? Why would they want to observe the Fremen? The Fremen are why would we want to... why do we observe... We don't want to observe sage grouse. We don't want to observe...
There seems to be this weird... And I think what we're getting at, right, what Josh is getting at, is that this is getting into some sort of commentary that Herbert's making. There is a weird collective blindness going on here, right? A voluntary collective blindness. And the question for us as readers is not necessarily what is going on in the book, but what is Herbert trying to say about this, right? Is he saying that, in fact, all these people would just be willingly ignorant, or is he saying they are not, and something else is going on?
I think what he's saying is going on is that scarcity makes their products valuable. And this is all about money.
Okay, and so they don't want to investigate anything that would make their products less valuable.
Yep.
So everybody's stuck in this...
I think there's also...
And they don't want to reveal
there's the hubris of the colonialists. The Fremen are so far beneath them, nothing the Fremen do would be of interest. They don't see them as having a unique, embedded, endogenous intelligence about that place. They're sort of, I don't know, desert vermin that are merely there to be laborers or maybe savage warriors. And I use that term ironically.
Right, sure.
That they could enlist in their service, why would... I don't know, it's the Great Sahara out there. It's a waste. It's something the Fremen go and do Fremen things. And why would anything be of interest to us civilized people? We're here to make money. I don't care if they have water, they don't have water. They do what they drink their own pee. Why would I listen to anything they have to say?
Why did Kynes pour the water into the canteen?
Because that's his way.
Or are you saying it was a deliberate statement to Jessica?
Oh.
I am wondering, because, now there's this additional dichotomy, right?
Oh, is he testing her?
Is
this
enough
is more
water,
oh.
Well, if there is enough water, and he's a man of status, he's not wanting for water. Why is he saving this water if it's the most precious thing, like he's someone who's out in the desert and doesn't have his status?
Oh, but that's interesting too, because then the other thing, and I'll let you go in just a second, Lily, but the other thing there, right, is that there being enough water doesn't necessarily mean there's a lot of water, right? It just means there's enough water to start the process that he's talking about. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, you do still need to save every cup.
Okay, that's fair. But was it more for show? Was this an act of...
Right. I'm such a desert bumpkin, I'm not going to pour out a glass of water.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and also sort of a statement of his independence from the Duke, right?
Yes.
He's the judge of transition or whatever.
Definitely.
This is fucking stupid. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, yes. I definitely think it's that.
So the Duke gets called out. There's awkward.
The Duke has to leave.
Dick measuring right and left.
Right, so then Paul's like, oh, let me out awkward my dad by telling this story about fishermen murdering each other and then comparing the banker to a fisherman who stands on his drowning friend's shoulders to try and reach the surface.
It's a great story. I was really enjoying Paul.
I do. It's a very good anecdote. It's just amazing that he's like, let me double down on that.
Yeah.
Right? Dad almost started a fight. Let me start a fight.
Yeah. So we never did come back to the Duke pouring out all the water either.
Oh yeah, because you had thoughts about that. I'm very interested in those.
Yeah, let's just quickly talk about that because I didn't think there was actually a whole lot to it, but you guys seemed a little. You're like, what was that all about?
Yeah,
and it was about being awkward. It was about imposing. This had nothing to do with a custom. It had nothing to do with a lack of or an abundance of water or richness. This was just him testing his guests. He was wanting to see how they would react, see who would obey, see their faces, and he wanted to put them on tilt also. So this was just an act of aggression.
Okay. Did you know that in many ways this is either a direct callback to or simply coincidentally evocative of a story about Calvin Coolidge?
No, do tell.
What?
Calvin Coolidge was a tremendous idiot who became president of the United States during the 1920s. And he was famous for his practical jokes. And one of them was that at a White House dinner party, when the coffee and dessert was served, he took his coffee cup off of his saucer, poured milk into the saucer, right? Waited till all of his, because it was decorum to do the same thing that the president was doing, at least at that point. Waited till all the guests poured milk into their saucer, started lifting the saucer to his lips, and when they did that, turned and put the saucer on the ground so his cat could have it.
It's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny. He's an idiot. It's also very dickish, but it's pretty funny.
I mean, were his guests a bunch of traitors that wanted to kill him in his house?
I don't know. I'm not too familiar with exactly what the state of things was, internationally during the Coolidge presidency. Oh, and then at the end of the very end of the chapter, it's revealed that the Harkonnens were trying to smuggle las guns onto the planet, which will matter soon. But I think we should move on to the second chapter if we're going to try and cover it at all.
I want you to, but Alec, you started off so enthusiastic, but what is your pitch for why this is such a brilliantly written chapter? Give us the pitch.
I love all of the unwritten interactions or unspoken stuff, right? And the way everybody is fencing and probing each other. I mean, I guess maybe it's kind of like how Josh loved that PowerPoint presentation, right? I just love the
PowerPoint
snotty,
chapter?
witty dinner party. Yeah, so the same way Josh loved the PowerPoint presentation, I was just like, ooh, I love attending slightly awkward, veiled political dinner parties.
I loved every jab. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I love the politics of this.
And you had the girl who was the companion who they were trying to bait Paul with. Literally everyone there had an agenda and was picking sides and throwing jabs and having fun. It was great. Why didn't you like it? Why did you think it was a slog, really?
I don't know. You know what it missed? I'm not proposing this as a Worlds Collide, but if this is supposed to be a Downton Abbey style, political dinner party, I missed the Dowager Countess. It needed that comic foil in order for me to fully enjoy it. They all took themselves way too seriously, and it was missing that element of someone. And in some ways, it's Leah who's like, no, I'm not pouring. No, we're not doing that. But that's...
Paul and cannibal birds. That's hilarious.
I mean, that was pretty good. But none of them... I need someone who's my ally in those sorts of scenes who's like, they're saying the things that need to be said. If Leo had a sense of humor, which he doesn't.
No, not really. You need like Gurney to step in or something and be like,
Right.
point out somebody being done. I guess that smuggler's kind of the closest you get, right?
Yes.
He just kind of laughs when the assholes get shown up, but he's not contributing much.
Yeah.
Right. I need the jokester god. I need the who's the Viking one?
Loki?
Loki. Yeah. I need a little Loki in that dynamic.
Hey, I got a question.
All right.
When Kynes pours his water into his little sack there, was it a space bag?
Maybe he's where just the terraforming water is accumulating?
Yeah, maybe he's just carrying around every drop of water needed in his own personal space bag. This episode brought to you by Space Bags. When you don't want to carry your own shit.
Why fold space? Why fold your shit when you can fold space? All right. Next chapter. We move on from the dinner party where everyone swings and measures. And the next chapter opens with the quote, "There is no escape. We pay for the violence of our ancestors." From Collected Sayings of Mua'Dweeb by Princess Rulian. And I just wrote, in the midst of everything that our country is going through, my face says, oh shit. I just sat. I was like, oh, I gotta get my reading done. I opened the book and I was just like, I think this was a couple nights ago when everything was happening and just confronting the reality of our nation. Just all right, we're really in it. Talk about, this is some Herbert prescience right here.
Yeah.
There's no escape. We pay for the violence of our ancestors, which I think we really are right now.
Yeah. But this is specifically talking about the Atreides and the Harkonnen, right?
Well, that's what I want to offer. I read the quote. It's a saying of Mua'Dweeb. And then I get through, this is the Jessica Thufir showdown.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's talk about it, because I came back to it at the end of it after reading the chapter and was like, what is this quote actually about? And who are the violent ancestors that they're answering to? Right now?
And at the very least, it applies to at least 3 different sets of opposing entities in this in this book, right? So yes, it is for sure about Harkonnens and Atreides. Yeah. I think it's also in many ways about the ancestors of the Mentats and the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah, that's what
who are opposed organizations that probably have ties to earlier sort of, not necessarily organizations, but certainly attitudes and acculturations. And I think it's also very much about Paul talking about what happens in the future.
Mm.
It's about stuff that happens beyond the scope of this initial encounter in Dune. But
okay. All right. So Jessica wakes up. She hears a big ruckus. She's not sure what's going on. We learn that she keeps some other time other than local time. She's like, oh, the clock says local time, so that means it's 2 a.m. 2 a.m. where? Caladan? The Bene Gesserit homeworld?
Right. Okay, so here's what I think it's about. I think that what they really mean there is that they haven't adjusted their clocks to the rotation rate of Arrakis. So the hour is generally accurate, right?
Had not been properly adjusted. Oh.
Right, so the hour is generally right? It is in the middle of the night. But the minutes aren't right because Arrakis rotates faster or slower. I haven't reverse engineered that than Caladan. Right, because
I totally read that wrong. I read that as she's actually keeping time.
Why would that doesn't make sense to me. Hold on a second.
Minutes are longer. Yeah, time is. Yeah, thank you, Josh.
I mean,
I was
time's bullshit.
That's
anyway.
bullshit.
Time doesn't really exist, but
it's either a standard unit of measure or it's not.
No,
right,
so
you just have more hours.
Right, and so their clock has not agreed. Right, she's saying the clock should be on the flat of an hour, right? Because their hours here are so many minutes long, but on Caladan, our hours were this many minutes long.
Okay, there is no way someone waking up in the middle of the night is trying to adjust for the length of an Iraqi hour. So even if it's 21 minutes longer, you got to do that every single hour. So now she's got to figure out how many hours it's been, and then every 3 hours you're off by an hour.
Well, then so here's fine counterfactual. If the problem is that Arrakis is 21 minutes off from Caladan, why would she give a shit?
This doesn't hold logical water.
This is Frank trying to come up with some sort of sci-fi time thing, and he certainly has no idea.
Thing.
And if somebody has a good explanation for what Frank has done here with time physics, I would love to know what I'm not understanding. Okay, but I gotta tell you, it sounds like a bunch of sci-fi bullshit.
I was so ready to be like, oh yeah, okay, Alec, yeah, just for the rotate. No, you're right, it's total bullshit.
Okay, I will.
It's total sci-fi bullshit.
I will cede my Herbert apologization.
And I'm okay. He can stretch some shit for, he's got some wiggle room. This is sci-fi, but there's no explaining what's happening here.
It's wasted on that. Who cares? Everyone hates daylight savings time. No, maybe that's his commentary. We shouldn't change time.
And it's weird.
This is a suspension of disbelief moment.
It's weird because he could have just said, oh, she could have thought, I haven't adjusted to the new, time zones, right?
Right, it's 2 a.m., but it's middle of the day.
Blaming it on the clock is weird.
Yes, it's very... And I want to know about these space clocks. Maybe these space clocks are real fancy. Because if they can add an hour... you can't take an Earth clock and use it in a place so that you can keep essentially noon happening when the sun's at the same point in the sky anywhere else.
Yeah.
That just wouldn't work.
Yeah, clocks are like umbrellas where you think, we've pretty much mastered that design technology. You can do a little bit of finicking around the edges, but a clock is a clock. We have nailed that. We have nailed the umbrella. You're not making a lot of improvements on the umbrella. But now I learn...
Well, they didn't have to fix the clock. We just have to add an extra day almost every 4 years to fix how not accurate the clock is, right?
That's not the clock's fault. That's our unit of measurement.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That is...
Anyway, all right. We can't talk about this clock the whole time.
Space clocks.
All right.
Well, we got to get a hold of space clocks. I need to know about these space clocks.
So she jumps out of bed. She does immediate calculations. Minus 21 minutes, 2 a.m. And then she's like, get my robe, strap a crysknife to my thigh, and just head out there. She is the big old lady Jessica. She is heading to figure out what is going on. She is going to sort out business. And this is the moment when I fall in love with her. I'm like, yes, she's got her silk robe flying.
Can I ask, what did she strap to her leg before she got the strap?
That's what I was about to ask. What weapon did Jessica carry before Shadow gave her the criskknife?
Because she seems very attuned to this thing. She really took it on quickly. It was first day on Dune, so maybe she didn't need to back on Caladan.
Oh, maybe. They certainly...
No, she's always had it. You're totally right. She was like, ooh, Shout Out just upgraded me.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
It was probably made out of the tusk of some sort of the previous homeworlds.
It was the horn of a bull. It was a bloody horn of a bull.
It totally was. She's moved on. She's like, Duke's gonna die. Moving on. We learned that the Duke, she checks all her monitors. We learned that she and the Duke sleep in separate bedrooms, which, no problems with that, but just something to put in her back pocket here.
And
Duke probably snores like a whole hog family.
Look at this first page of this chapter and the two short statements that are in italics. This is how this entire book is written, essentially.
Is this a Harkonnen attack? What if Leto's hurt?
Okay, and what happens in this chapter?
Duncan gets drunk.
Okay, and then?
And then her and Thooper have an argument.
Jessica dominates.
And then?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. That's all that happens.
Okay. And then what happens after that?
Oh, the Harkonnens attack and Leto gets hurt.
Right, in the next chapter.
Okay. You're right, in the next chapter.
Did
But
you
still,
read the next chapter? Did you
read
actually
either.
read and you told us?
I didn't read either of them. I was going off of your guys' cues. So, but here, it doesn't really matter. My point is, every time you look at a chapter, all you have to do is read the words that are in italics, and either they're it's one of two things. They're either it's exactly what's gonna it's posed as a question and it's exactly what's gonna happen, or it's posed as a statement and it's exactly the opposite, or it's a song, or it's a song.
I like this.
All right, I like it too.
So we're learning some things about old Frank's writing style.
Mm-hmm.
That's real funny. Okay,
I didn't read it, so that's all I got. You guys got the rest of this.
okay, yeah, we'll.
I'll try to find a commercial.
So she goes out. Duncan is just drunk as a skunk. He is toe
Spice
up.
beer.
Oh,
Spice.
I gotta get a hold of the
Spice
Spice Beer people. Hold on a second, I gotta make a note. Hold on.
There we go. There's a sponsor. Get us a case of
It was
Spice
Spice
beer.
Ale. Spice Ale, yeah.
And I don't really get why they're quite so mad at him. Like, can he not tie one on? Like, man, he's been working hard. They're settled in Arrakis. Can he not have, like, a night out?
And I love how he comes back, and he's super drunk, and he goes, "I've killed 300 guys for the Duke." that's what's on his mind. I'm drunk.
I first wet my sword
Actually,
on.
hold on. I do think that's interesting and important in that it is sort of a rebuke to the Atreides as good guys story, right? Right, like the Atreides' favorite retainer, if he happens to have a little too much to drink, just can't stop crying about the genocide he's committed.
Well, who's he killing?
My sword is
Just
first-blooded
Harkonnens?
and Grumman.
I think it's probably Harkonnen or Harkonnen adjacent, but I bet there's a lot of innocent-ish people that are Harkonnen adjacent. He's obviously sad about it.
Are there any people within these houses that you would say are innocent adjacent? Because they all seem pretty crappy.
That's interesting. That may be a point of the book that no one is actually... Right? I mean, we would attach a certain degree of ethical rectitude to Shadout, but she's a cold-blooded killer. Kynes is a jovial botanist. He's a cold-blooded killer.
But I wasn't... Actually, I was going to exclude the Fremen.
Oh, no, I think literally everybody in these... I guess you might have been, but I went further and I was like, wait, is anybody in these books not like, you know, a slaughtering bastard? And I don't think so.
But the Fremen are slaughtering for a good reason.
Everybody's slaughtering for a good reason until they're not. And that's actually a big point of the book.
That is a good point.
This makes me think, and I'm not really prepared to elaborate on this too much, but there was a point earlier when they were talking about the carrying capacity of the planet, and this is why you have to monitor it, and I was just like, it always makes me uncomfortable and itchy when people veer into Malthus and, like, you know, it's survival of the fittest, and there's just a carrying capacity, and we have to decrease the surplus population, and it just reeks of, like, imperialism, and
let's
veers
go
into
back.
eugenics.
Let's go back to the story. Who's the Shadow Mapes killing and why?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think she's we are meant to infer that sort of Matahari style, maybe. She's killed a lot of Harkonnens, right? She's a deep agent. She goes into the cities and then kills unwary Harkonnens in alleyways with her crysknife.
You mean she's not doing it while she's cleaning their houses? Like, sleep in their beds kind of thing?
I mean, I think you can only kill so many people in their beds before you stop getting recommendations. Right? And we know that she worked most recently in the house of... I forgot their names already. But old girl who left the conservatory.
Wasn't it the...
No, you keep thinking it's the Emperor. It was not the Emperor.
Who was it? It was...
It was... Shit. He was like a... Oh, Count Fenring. That's his name.
Yeah, the Count.
Count Fenring and his wife. Right? Who... I don't know who the fuck they are. But they I don't know. They're like sort of attached to the Harkonnens, but they're not Harkonnens. And
Is there a House Fenring?
I don't know.
First of its name.
Yeah, I don't read. I will reveal that the Fenrings appear again in the book.
Okay.
So.
But we don't know if they're one of the great houses.
Right, but we'll get answers.
All right, so he's drunk in his spice beer. He's drunk as a skunk.
Schwasty.
Not clear. I mean, maybe he was drugged. Something that's in italics at one point, like, oh, was he drugged? Right? We don't know, because it does seem like if anyone in this crew, like the Atreides crew, could hold his liquor, it'd be that guy.
And so that begs the interesting question. Assuming that well, there's a couple awkward questions here, right? Assuming he followed old girl home.
Mm-hmm.
If she's a Harkonnen, she is a Harkonnen agent. He followed her home. Does that mean that they got drunk together?
I can't really follow it.
And if they got drunk together and she drugged him, did she drug him just to send him home drunk to get in trouble and sow discord? Why didn't she simply murder him?
Because then they're obviously, then they become to blame. Then they would, if she murdered him, they'd be like, they're the murderers, go get those bad guys.
I guess it doesn't seem like anybody's in any doubt about, like, that these people are Harkonnen agents.
So here's what it says.
Okay.
Where has he been, Jessica asked. He escorted one of the young ladies home from the dinner, my lady.
Right.
Howard's orders. Which young lady? One of the escort wenches.
Oh, interesting. So it wasn't the
They could have
water.
just stopped at escort. They could have just stopped at escort. Didn't need that second part.
Didn't need that wenches?
And then they go on about how he often does shit for the escort.
No, they go on about how he's always assigned to watch the women, which is like, again, it's like saying Liette behind like 2 feet behind Kynes' back. They're literally saying it in front of Jessica.
You're right. It's so good.
Yeah, no Atreides underling is trained in subtlety in the slightest.
All right, so he's drunk. I don't care who he escorted home. He comes
Right.
back. He's drugged. Maybe they were trying to get information out of him. Who knows? He comes back. Jessica's pissed. Does the classic night, like, this was what dates this book in some ways. Get this man coffee. Get him a stimulant.
I love it,
and
and then
I was like, ooh,
right, and then Yui
here comes
shows
the pill
up, and
parade,
Yui's
and
like,
it's
give him coffee.
Right. That'll work. That'll sober him up.
70,000 years in the future, they haven't invented a sober pill.
Oh, you're right. I read that line wrong. They're always calling on Idaho for special surveillance of the ladies.
Yeah, because he's the one who's supposed to be watching Jessica.
Interesting. I thought he was doing like stakeouts for the escort service for some reason. I don't know why I read it that way, but that makes way more sense. Okay.
But
All
again,
right, so then
they literally say
old
that
drunkard.
to Jessica. It's an amazing passage. Yeah, continue with your summation, Lily.
So he's my attempted 30-second rundown that y'all keep interrupting.
Now, hold
He's
on a
drunk.
second.
He's like,
I almost
me.
did it just to do. Excuse me. Did you do that just for comedic effect, or were you actually have something to say?
No, it was just for comedic effect.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
There is going to be some good
right.
voice action later in this chapter. I will now shut up forever, I promise.
so he's rambling on. I first blooded my sword when the walls fell, and they try to sober him up, and then he starts babbling, and he basically outs that Jessica's an item of suspicion. Doesn't matter what the actual quote is. I can't find it in my book right now. But he's
I have
like,
nothing to say to a Harkonnen traitor.
Yeah, you slut. I don't talk. I don't answer to you. I first blooded my knife when the walls fell.
Shaka
And
when the
she's
walls
like,
fell.
exactly.
Worlds collide.
And then she's like, say what? And then she's looking around like, oh.
Well, what she actually says is, that calls for shock treatment. Excuse me. What is happening here?
No, she's talking about Thufir with the shock treatment. Oh, no.
No, he
No,
says he
you're
doesn't
right.
want us to feel better.
No,
we can argue
you're
with
right.
him all night.
That's just a phrase she says all chapter. Huh. Which I'm now realizing
is he ready for shock? Is he ready for the shock now? Ooh, now it's time to bring the shock.
Which I'm now realizing was some sort of literary device. I guess it's supposed to be foreshadowing of what happens in the next chapter.
Oh, interesting that it's not. She's saying he's going to be shocked. There's not some Bene Gesserit shocker, like a.
No, the shock she comes up with is throwing the coffee in his face.
Huh? I figured it was just like another Gom Jabbar, but it electrocutes you.
No, it's literally just yelling at him, and then she throws coffee at him.
Saying something shocking. So he says, "I don't take orders from a spy," and then Yue plays it super cool and is like, "Ooh." And then stares over at Jessica like, oh.
I envision this as like a telenovela. Like he says it, and then all the music is like, bum, bum, bum!
And then it comes in real close to his face.
Yeah, it comes in really close on Yui's face. And then cuts to commercial.
And Jessica's all aghast.
Pearls were clutched.
And does not notice the look on Yui's
only
face.
then it becomes clear to her, like, it makes you doubt Jessica, like, really, like, is she as astute as she thinks she is? Is she all BG magic, or is she not?
Well, Mapes is just in the background shaking her head, just like, come on, guys.
Lily, I put this back in Jessica's category on the, it's so hard to distinguish between real bullshit from the Duke and chronic bullshit from the Duke. Right? She didn't notice because she was like, yeah, he's always an asshole.
Interesting theory. He's such a bumbling dolt of an a-hole that it actually ends up providing a protective shield for his activities.
It did actually prevent her from suspecting what she should have, but not for the reasons that he thought.
Not Jessica.
Right. She picked up that he was doing what he was doing. She just blamed it on him being him.
But how did she not notice it from anybody else? Like,
well,
if they're all like, keep an eye on Jessica. Like, everyone else should have been like, I don't know.
Well, she certainly should have noticed. No, but you're right. She should have noticed Duncan following her around, right? She should have been like, what the fuck is up with Duncan doing this? Although maybe you would just attribute it to people guarding, right? Everybody's on the guard because they're on Arrakis. Gotta smell all your food for Chumas.
All right, so say they do that. She and Yue's there, and he's like, "Do you want some pills? I could give you some pills." And she's like, "No, I don't want any pills. Stop. I mean, maybe for later. Okay, put some in my room, but I don't want to talk to you right now."
Which, well, in relation to the next chapter, I feel like if Jessica had been sedated, that would have severely interfered with Yui's plans for the next chapter. We'll get to that when we get to it, I guess. But
because he loves sedating people.
He does love sedating people.
She and Thufir have a standoff because she's like, she knows if anybody's behind everyone suspecting her on some plot. She's like, you're the only one that has any clout around here. What the hell is up? We're going to talk about this. I will see you in my office, right?
Which I'm so excited for this scene in the new movie because I love the guy who's playing Thufir.
All right, so Jessica is like, see me in my office. They have their showdown, and they are both stone cold, man. Like, it does say, I love that it says that Thufir is like crackling with a drug-induced energy. Like, I just always am going to come back to, they are all popping pills all the time.
Well, the start of the next chapter, the Duke's like, I haven't slept in 5 days.
Right. Tweaking.
It's like, no wonder you guys missed some shit.
So I don't actually find the back and forth that interesting, although it's probably great, where they're just like filling each other out, and they're just like both actually super loyal to the Duke, or is she? That they're trying to play trump cards on each other, and they're upping the ante back and forth. But what I want to come to is, like, they do know, they're talking about, like, okay, if it's not you, and it's not me, and I'm not saying it's not you, and I'm not saying it's not me, because I still totally don't trust you, but can it be Yue? And they're just, again, this blind spot of, like, no, he's got that training, that thing, that tattoo on his forehead. It can't be him. Plus, not to mention that his wife was a Bene Gesserit slain by the Harkonnens, Jessica said. So they do know this. Like, they know about Wanna Wellington.
Wanna Wellington.
The Harkonnens were involved. Wanna Wellington.
Lily, you just...
But then Howat says, oh, so that's what happened to her. But...
Yeah, how did you not... look that shit up! You had one job!
You had one job to figure out who had ties to the Harkonnens. You missed this? You missed this one?
Wait,
hang on,
who was it that you said just knew about Wanna Wellington's thing?
Jessica was like, yeah, I mean, they're like, oh yeah, it can't be Yue. I mean, intensely, like, can't be Yue because he's got that training. And then she says, well, his wife was slain by the Harkonnens. And then Thufir says, oh, so that's what happened to her.
But hang on,
Inexcusable.
I think actually you just blew open a new Dune-spiracy.
Ooh,
Here's my
Dune-spiracy.
Here's my new Dune-spiracy. Sook school conditioning is fucking meaningless. Throughout history, hundreds of nobles have been slain by their Sook doctors. The Imperial machinery just pushes this myth that a Sook doctor can never hurt anyone in order to plant deep agent assassins with the noble families.
So there's like
do you think that there are other instances of this in the text anywhere, or is this just a fun theory?
No, I don't think this is any... I think Yui may be the only Sook school doctor we encounter, at least in the text of Dune 1.
But as a parallel to the Deep Bene Gesserit conspiracy, where like they've got their own,
but everybody's like so convinced of this, and it's so not that difficult to subvert, right? That it must be. It must be instead that every time a Sook doctor kills somebody, they just cover it up and blame it on someone else.
Probably the wife.
Also,
or the mistress.
You would think the Bene Gesserit would have a way to overcome it too, right? Or are they the ones doing it?
Right. Or they are right. They are probably who the it's probably either independently them or them in conjunction with the Imperial apparatus. But yeah, it doesn't seem that hard to overturn Sook conditioning.
I like this theory. I hope it comes back.
Or the Harkonnens are just so much more clever than anyone thinks. They're still trying to figure out who the
traitor is. Thufir's like, I'm the Duke's man, right? Oh, yeah, this is the moment I wanted to come to. And she's like, he's trying to prove how loyal he is. And she's like, well, you did almost let my son die. Why should I trust you? He's like, I offered the Duke my resignation. And she clapped back of the entire book so far. She's like, did you offer me your resignation? Did you talk to Paul about this? Or you just, the Duke was enough. And he's like, I'm the Duke's man. Amazing. Love Jessica for that clapback. This chapter more than the dinner party chapter. I just love Jessica this chapter because she makes. I mean, a little bit of it's overwrought, but she is just like, ooh, on it. And so she comes up with the theory: destroy the place and destroy the person. You and I, Thufir, of all those who love the Duke, are most ideally situated to destroy the other's place, right? And by place, she doesn't mean like community, she means like position within these hierarchies. And so if the Harkonnens, her theory is if they can pit the two of them against each other, they'll throw the whole world upside down because everything revolves around the Duke. But it doesn't.
Well, but I think also maybe she's also saying if they can pit them against each other. Yeah, I mean, I guess she's too fixated on the Duke, right? Because the real answer, it turns out, is if you can get if you can get the legs of the Atreides three-legged stool fighting each other, the thing becomes much easier to push over. In I don't know, hypothetically 5 pages, 7 pages.
So then they go back and forth some more. Thufir tries to say but I looked at things objectively, and I was just interested. I don't have much to say about this other than you just have to, he's the Mentat, right? And he's like, you just have to see them outside yourself and see them objectively. And she's like, right, but you can't see yourself objectively because you're still actually a person. And he's like, that makes me uncomfortable. I'm not fine.
There is some great Mentat criticism here, and it's interesting. Yes. I wonder to what extent this is also Herbert criticizing contemporary people who claim to focus so exclusively on logic
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe computers. It's not entirely clear, and I think he's not entirely always clear on to what extent the Mentats have become computer-like, computerine.
Because they can't. Like, he
Right.
probably wants to believe that they're fully that way, and it turns out they're just human. I'm the Duke's man.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I don't want to miss this, where Jessica's trying to get this ready. She's trying to knock Thufir off his pedestal, and she's saying again, they're combating, the Duke and I are father and mother surrogates to our people. She is so into that idea. We are surrogate parents to our people, and he just interrupts her to say, he hasn't married you. Which just further, I just want to bring that back, that like, it doesn't actually matter that they're not married. It does.
It does.
It does to anyone that actually cares about it.
And it's a very...
And then,
no, I think it's like... I don't know. It's weird that he tries to pass it off on her. It's the whole... I mean, I actually think he does a good job of portraying a really fucked up power dynamic here, right? Because the Duke is always trying to convince her that it's not a big deal that he hasn't married her, even though he knows that she's this, like, deeply trained, politically... blend of master politician, spy, and psychic witch, right? And he's like, no, she totally bought it. But at the same time, she is also like, Thufir, I could have made him marry me, and if I felt like it, I could have let him think he actually wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. Right? So, like, there's such a tangled mess there.
And she uses the voice on him.
She uses the fuck out of the voice on Thufir.
He's like,
it's so good.
He is 1,000% shook by it.
Yeah.
He's like, how
flabbergasted.
She made me sit down. What else could she's like, my training. It's like, wait, she had this power all along, and he just doesn't know how to process it, and she totally wins.
The thing that is either not consistent or not consistent with Thufir's self-image, at least, right, is that at that moment, he should have instantly been like, oh, if she wanted anybody dead, she could have them dead at any minute. Why am I worrying about this, right? Like,
right. Where's your logic now, buddy?
Yeah, she's a full-on BG power, like BG Dynamo. If she wanted the Duke dead, she could just tell him to jump off a cliff. I know, I'm fascinated on this read-through because of the way that we are diving into it, about the ways that Herbert chooses to portray the voice. And that he almost never, right, in a lesser work of science fiction or fantasy, when somebody said, something in the voice, there'd be like a stupid font, and everybody would be like, oh, the weird echoes of the voice rang through the room, right? But most of the time, he does a much more subtle, like, somebody says something, and then a character obeys in a way that is uncharacteristic, and you are left to infer, right? Or after the fact, somebody's like, wait a minute, why the fuck did I do that? And I
like it.
Yeah, it's really good, and a thing that certainly, fantastic, the Lynch dude does not reflect.
Fair point. But she uses a voice on him.
Yeah.
He's shook. He's like, oh, she is actually, okay, maybe I should stop with this. And they kind of agree to, like, she kind of tells him, now go figure out who actually is the problem. And I just want to end, unless there's more pressing things on this quote. And he knew that whatever the facts proved to be in the end, he would never forget this moment, nor lose the sense of supreme admiration for the Lady Jessica.
Yeah, it's a real good...
You don't have to take my word for it.
It's a real good quote. It's also a real awkward foreshadowing. So, all right. I think it's time for us to wrap up this week. We've actually been recording for a very long time. Editing this down is going to be wild. But before we go, let's hear from one more of our sponsors.
Yeah, we gotta head to the Chum Zone. So we've got a new sponsor this week. The good people at Sun Tradies have developed a new pill, a new little pill to pop. It's called Dunesta. Dunesta is the real medical term here for it is meloxicam, and it is their new sleeping pill. So I'm gonna try it once over here on the copy. It's a little. I think they sent it to us in a rush just because we were trying to get it in here by the end of the episode. So we may have to do like a re-recording of it and just kind of you can just insert it back in later once we kind of clean it up a little bit. Maybe we'll add some music.
Yeah, we have that advanced technology.
Yeah.
Dunesta.
Yeah, Dunesta. Are you tossing and turning at night? Having trouble staying asleep or falling asleep? Thoughts of chowmurkey or betrayal? Dehydration in your head? You need Dunesta. Good people at Suntrades have brought Dunesta for those sleepless nights so that you can get the sleep that you need, so that you are ready for those verbal jabs at all those dinner parties that you're having. They really understand the needs of the people on Arrakis, and Dunesta is the pill that you want to pop when you are on Dune. So now, Dunesta, when you just can't sleep at night.
Does Suntrades also offer some of those fabulous 6-day awake stim pills I've been hearing about?
I'll ask him. Okay.
Because I want to be jittery like the Duke.
Yeah. So thank you, Suntrades and Dunesta. They sent me.
I look forward to popping one of those.
They sent me a couple of samples. So I'll send you guys.
Please do.
A few to try as well. We can report back next time.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Join us in 2 weeks for our next episode of Gom Jabber with us, the Mua'Dweebs. We will read some chapters and talk about them. Hopefully Josh will join us. Hopefully my internet will work. Hopefully Alex's internet will work. Hopefully we'll all be here and we won't be under the thumb of martial law. Yeah. We laugh so we might not weep.
Yeah, when we get stuck in Tuesday marching, shit's really hit the fan, so.
Whew.